I always believed that love was a quiet kind of magic, not the fireworks or movie scenes, but the steady hum of belonging. The way she'd rest her head on my shoulder during late-night drives, the way our laughter filled the silence between responsibilities. Her name was Amelia, and for 3 years, she'd been the axis around which my world spun. Our wedding was just a week away. The invitations had been sent, the venue paid for, the tux pressed and waiting. Every detail, from the floral arrangements to the custom playlist, was a reflection of us, or at least what I thought we were. Then came that evening, the night everything shifted. It was a Thursday, unremarkable in every way, except that I decided to leave work early. I had this stupid, romantic idea of surprising her. She always teased me for being predictable, for living life like it had a script. "You're so vanilla, George," she'd laugh. "Sometimes I wish you'd just surprise me." Those words used to sting, but I'd learned to smile through them. I told myself it was playful banter, that she didn't mean it. That night, the city glowed with rain-slick reflections, streetlights turning puddles into tiny galaxies. I picked up her favorite wine, the one with the crimson label she claimed tasted like sin, and headed to her apartment. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Odd. She told me she was staying in, working on final touches for the wedding seating plan. Still, I went inside. The lights were off, except for the faint glow from her laptop screen. I set the wine down and noticed her phone buzzing on the coffee table, one notification after another. At first, I didn't mean to look, but when you love someone deeply enough, your gut speaks before your conscience does. The name flashing on her screen wasn't mine. Zach Kissmark. The preview of the message froze me. Last night was wild. Hard to believe your future hubby has no idea how filthy you really are, smiling face with horns. My breath caught, my pulse hammered in my ears. My world, everything I thought was real, started to tilt sideways. I picked up her phone, hands trembling. No passcode. She trusted me too much for that. Thread after thread. Photos, videos, voice notes. Conversations that stripped away every illusion I'd built around her. She wasn't just cheating, she was documenting it. And the worst part? The tone, the excitement, the joy. "He thinks I'm just tired when I don't want to do it. Poor guy. He's sweet, but God, he's so boring. You bring out the real me, Zach. I can't stop." Every word carved deeper into me, each one an incision I couldn't close. I sat there in the darkness for what felt like hours, the rain whispering against the windows. I wanted to scream. I wanted to burn every trace of her, but instead I just sat. Because beneath the rage was something heavier, grief. The kind of grief you feel when you realize the person you loved never truly existed. When she came home later, I was gone, but the wine bottle remained unopened, standing on the table like a silent witness. The next morning, I didn't confront her. I went to work, smiled through meetings, and played my part, but inside I was unraveling. That night, I created a fake profile. A simple one, no face, just curiosity. It didn't take long to find her secret world, an anonymous social media account under the handle @WildAmelia. And there it was, her entire double life. Provocative photos, flirtatious posts, messages hinting at rendezvous that lined up perfectly with the late work nights she'd claimed to have. And then I saw it. A video. Her and him. In a car. My car. The brand new sports car I'd bought her as a surprise wedding gift. She was laughing in that same way she used to with me. Only this time, it wasn't laughter. It was betrayal dressed in desire. I didn't cry, not that night. I just sat there, watching the man I wasn't, the one she'd chosen for passion instead of peace. By morning, something inside me had gone completely still. When she called, I answered with the same calm I used in business meetings. "Hey, baby," she said, voice soft, casual. "Big day tomorrow. Can't believe it's finally happening." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Me neither." She giggled. "You sound tired, nervous." You could say that. If she noticed the edge in my tone, she didn't mention it. That night, as the city slept, I sat in front of my laptop piecing together my own version of the truth. Not words, not confrontation, but proof. The slideshow I'd spent weeks editing for our wedding, the montage of our love story, was replaced. Frame by frame, I edited a new film. A documentary of deception. My love story, rewritten with brutal honesty. As dawn broke, I looked at my reflection in the dark screen. My eyes were tired but clear. The man staring back wasn't the vanilla fool she thought he was. He was something else entirely. And in 2 days, the whole world, or at least 300 wedding guests, would find out who Amelia truly was. The morning of our wedding began like a dream someone else was having. The sun spilled through the curtains in golden waves, warming the polished wooden floor of the hotel's suite. The city outside was alive, cars honking, church bells ringing, people hurrying past with coffee cups and bouquets. But inside there was only silence. I sat on the edge of the bed in my tuxedo, staring at the cufflinks she'd given me last Christmas. Small, silver, engraved with our initials, G and A. A symbol of forever. I fastened them anyway. When I arrived at the venue, a grand seaside estate with sweeping marble steps and chandeliers that looked like captured stars, everyone greeted me like the happiest man alive. "George, you look incredible, man. You're marrying the most beautiful woman in town." "Lucky guy." Each compliment landed like a dull thud. If they only knew what was coming. I smiled, I shook hands, I thanked them all. But in my head, I replayed the video, the one I'd edited frame by frame. Her laughter, his voice, the moans that once belonged to me. All of it perfectly synced to our wedding song. The ceremony passed like a blur. Vows, rings, cheers. She looked radiant, glowing even. Her hand trembled slightly when I slid the ring onto her finger. Guilt or fear, I couldn't tell. But when she looked into my eyes and whispered, "I love you, George," I almost believed her again. Almost. The reception was held in the ballroom, white drapes billowing, candles flickering, champagne flowing like liquid light. 300 guests, family, friends, colleagues. And her parents, smiling with pride. I stood at the head table, watching her dance among the crowd. She was stunning, her laughter bright, her movements effortless. Every step she took looked like perfection. But I saw the cracks now. I saw the mask she wore. When the DJ announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, if we could all take our seats, it's time for the wedding slideshow." A hush fell over the room. This was it. The lights dimmed. The first few seconds were normal. Childhood photos, baby pictures, our first date, the proposal in Santorini. The crowd smiled, clapped, cooed. Then the screen flickered. The music changed. And suddenly the room froze. There she was, Amelia, in a dimly lit car, the brand new one I'd given her. Laughing, kissing. Not me. Gasps erupted, someone screamed, a chair scraped the floor. Her parents' faces went pale. Amelia shot up from her seat. "Turn it off, turn IT off," she shouted, her voice cracking. But I didn't move. The video kept playing, unedited, raw, undeniable. Every lie she'd told was there, projected 10 feet tall, under the soft glow of fairy lights. When the screen finally went black, the silence was suffocating. Then I spoke. "She called me too vanilla," I said, voice calm, echoing through the hall. "So I figured I'd show everyone just how adventurous she really is." Murmurs swept through the crowd. Some looked away. Others stared in stunned fascination. Amelia's makeup was streaked now, her eyes wild. "George, please, this isn't what it looks like. I can explain." "Explain," I stepped closer. "Which part, Amelia? The lying, the laughing, or the part where you used me to fund your fairy tale while screwing someone else in the car I bought you?" Her lips quivered, but no words came out. "You ruined me," she whispered. "No," I said softly, "you ruined yourself." She ran out of the hall, sobbing, heels clattering across marble. No one followed her. The music didn't start again. The celebration died right there. I looked at the screen, now black, reflecting only my own silhouette, and for the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Freedom doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels quiet. Outside, I walked alone along the edge of the estate's cliffside garden. The ocean roared below, wind tossing salt through the air. The tux felt heavy, my ring finger itched. When I reached the end of the path, I slipped the gold band off and let it fall into the waves. It caught the sunlight once, a flicker of gold, before disappearing forever. That night, the story of the wedding from hell spread online like wildfire. Guests couldn't resist sharing. The footage leaked. The whispers became headlines. By morning, Amelia's picture was everywhere, her perfect smile now the face of scandal. And I thought it would end there. But karma, it seemed, was only getting started. The next morning, the world felt smaller, louder, and infinitely crueler. News traveled fast. Social media exploded. Bride caught cheating at wedding was trending. Screenshots, snippets, and video clips of Amelia circulated like wildfire. People I didn't even know commented, judged, and laughed. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I watched from across the city, alone in my apartment as she scrambled. Emails, calls, texts, each one met with her panic and denial. But there was no denying the evidence anymore. It wasn't just me, it was everyone. By midday, her professional life began unraveling. I didn't need to call anyone. One viral video, one email thread forwarded by her humiliated colleagues, and her employer saw her in a different light. She had been the rising star at the marketing firm, admired for her charm, her wit, her seemingly impeccable professionalism. But viral scandal doesn't care about past accomplishments. Within hours, her boss called her into an emergency meeting. Word reached me before she returned my texts. She's been let go, my friend whispered, shaking his head. I felt a strange mix of triumph and emptiness. Victory tastes bitter when you see someone fall not just socially, but professionally too. She came to my apartment that night, drenched in rain, mascara running, clutching a paper bag with nothing inside but remnants of a life she used to have. "George, please, we can fix this. I'll do anything," she pleaded, voice trembling. "Anything?" I asked, looking past her. "You want to explain your way out, or beg forgiveness. You think I'm still the man you can manipulate." Her lips quivered. I made a mistake. I love you. It meant nothing." I stepped closer, and the words I'd been rehearsing for weeks came out smooth, cold. "It meant everything to you, just not to me, and now everyone knows who you really are." She fell to her knees, sobbing. "I can't live like this. My life is ruined." "You made that choice," I said softly. "I just showed everyone the door." Days passed. The world kept spinning, and the chaos surrounding her only intensified. Friends abandoned her. Family whispered behind her back. The news outlets dissected her every move. And yet, in the quiet moments, I found myself feeling hollow. I had orchestrated a perfect act of revenge. I had revealed the truth with surgical precision. But staring at her downfall, I realized the bitterest part wasn't seeing her suffer. It was realizing that I had loved her once, and that part of me still lingered in the wreckage. Late one night, I went for a walk along the same cliffside garden where I'd let the ring fall. The wind whipped around me, cold and sharp, as if nature itself was reminding me that revenge comes at a cost. I didn't feel victorious anymore. I felt empty. A lesson slowly settled into me. Revenge could destroy the other person, but it doesn't rebuild what you lose in the process. By week's end, the reality hit her fully. She had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. And yet, she still tried to reach me. "George, please, I'm begging you. I'll change. I'll do anything." I read her texts and deleted them. There would be no reconciliation, no excuses. I had loved her, yes, but love is not ownership. And trust, once shattered, cannot be repaired with empty promises. That night, I sat in my apartment and finally let myself cry. Not for her, not for the scandal, not even for revenge, but for the loss of what I thought love was. The fallout was complete, And yet life continued. People moved on. Guests returned to their routines. Headlines faded. Amelia became a cautionary tale, whispered in boardrooms and social gatherings. And me, I realized that revenge is only half a story. The other half is learning to live with the aftermath, the silence, the grief, and the quiet peace of knowing you stayed true to yourself. The weeks after the wedding were strangely quiet. The chaos had settled like ash, leaving a hollow stillness in its wake. The city carried on as if nothing had happened, but I felt the weight of every glance, every whispered story about that infamous night. I moved through the world with a different rhythm now. Coffee shops, office corridors, the subway, I was present, yet detached. Life had not stopped, it had just rearranged itself around me. I found myself thinking about her, not with rage anymore, but with a bittersweet sense of loss. I loved her. I admitted to no one, staring at the ceiling one late night, and she was never mine. I had loved a version of Amelia that existed only in my mind, a fantasy built from fleeting smiles, whispered jokes, and shared dreams. That version didn't cheat. That version didn't lie. But reality had been merciless, and I had watched her fall spectacularly. The realization was both liberating and heartbreaking. Loving someone doesn't mean you own them, and letting go doesn't make the love any less real. Work became my refuge. I immersed myself in projects, deadlines, and collaborations, letting focus replace obsession. I took long walks at dawn, watched the city wake, and slowly started to breathe without tension curling in my chest. I began to notice things I hadn't before. The way sunlight fractured through the glass windows of the office, the quiet resilience of strangers on the street, the soft laughter of children in the park. Small moments, ordinary moments, that reminded me life is not about grand gestures of revenge. It's about presence and clarity and subtle joys. And then came the letter. A plain envelope, slid under my apartment door, no return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I've lost everything. Maybe someday you'll understand that the pain I caused was never meant to hurt you, just me. A. I read it 3 times. My stomach churned with a cocktail of satisfaction, sorrow, and something I couldn't name. Relief, maybe, closure, partly, but mostly a reminder that consequences, no matter how dramatic, don't erase what once was. I walked to the cliffside again. The ocean roared beneath me, white-capped waves colliding with rocks like nature's own reminder of time's relentless march. I thought about letting go of more than just rings this time. Letting go of resentment, of anger, of the ghosts of someone I had loved too deeply. And when I did, I felt lighter. Life returned, quietly, like a river resuming its course after a storm. Friends reached out. Family dinners resumed their warmth. I even smiled at strangers on the street without forcing it. I hadn't expected romance to enter my life again, but I realized that love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. The barista who remembers your coffee order, the coworker who offers a quiet smile, the old friend who calls just to check in. And in those small moments, I started to feel hope. Somewhere, Amelia was still picking up the pieces of her life. Perhaps she would rebuild, perhaps not. But that was no longer my concern. The story I had written for her was hers to live. And mine, I was free to write the next chapter. The ocean stretched before me, infinite and unbroken. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting gold across the water. I breathed in the salt air and felt it, the quiet thrill of survival, the steady pulse of life moving forward. And I knew, for the first time in weeks, that the future didn't have to be defined by the past. Months passed. Life had settled into a rhythm that felt both strange and comforting. I had stopped checking the news obsessively for mentions of her. I had stopped replaying the wedding video in my mind. I had learned, painfully, that true closure doesn't come from punishment, it comes from acceptance. And yet, karma has a way of finishing what you start, even when you step back. I heard about her first through mutual acquaintances. Amelia had tried to rebuild her career, but doors closed faster than she could knock. Her reputation, once enviable, had become a shadow she couldn't escape. Corporate offers evaporated, friends distanced themselves, and the city that had once adored her now whispered. She tried to move away, change her name, start over, but the internet never forgets. Screenshots and videos resurfaced like ghosts, reminders of every choice she had made. It was poetic, if cruel. Her life, meticulously curated, collapsed under the weight of her own decisions. One rainy evening, I saw her by chance at a cafe. She was smaller somehow, hunched over her coffee, coat pulled tightly around her as if it could shield her from the world. No makeup, no confidence, just exhaustion and regret. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. Watching from across the room, I realized that the humiliation I had inflicted months ago had been just the first chapter of her reckoning. Life itself was finishing the story. And in that moment, I felt something unexpected, a strange kind of pity. Not for the betrayal, not for the lies, but for the weight of living in a world where the consequences of your choices finally catch up. Back at my apartment, I looked out over the city skyline. Lights flickered like distant stars. The ocean below hummed a quiet lullaby. I thought about everything I had endured, the betrayal, the anger, the revenge, and realized I had changed. Hardened, yes. Wounded, certainly. But also wiser, stronger, and infinitely freer. I poured myself a glass of wine, the same brand I had once bought her, ironically, and raised it to the horizon. To life, I whispered. To the choices we make, the lessons we learn, and the freedom we earn. The city pulsed with life beneath me. Somewhere, Amelia would rise again, or perhaps she wouldn't. Either way, it was no longer my story to write. I sank into the sofa, watching the sunset bleed gold into the clouds. There was a calm in knowing that I had acted with clarity, that justice, quiet, inexorable, and patient, had played its part, and that I could finally turn the page. And in that calm, I felt it, the quiet thrill of survival. The subtle joy of having lived through the storm and still standing. The peace of knowing that love, betrayal, revenge, and loss are all part of life's complex, unrelenting rhythm, and that somehow, even after heartbreak, the world continues to be beautiful. The end.